All right, we're starting the Livingston Parish Ordinance Committee meeting. The present time is 5:03 hours p.m. and today's date is June 11th, 2024, the day of our Lord. And if y'all don't mind, please stand. Well, stand. We'll do the invocation. Mr. Shaver.
Miss Sandy, will you do it for me?
Yes. Heavenly Father and Lord, we are so grateful for your grace and your mercy that you've shown us in our parish. Lord, we just pray that you hand upon for the people that they represent. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Erdy, would you listen to pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Raven, Ms. Sandy, or Ms. Caroline, would y'all call the roll for us? Make sure we have a quorum.
Mr. Coates.
Here.
Ms. Sandifer.
Here.
Mr. Shaver.
Here.
Mr. Erdy.
Here.
All right, everyone's present. We do have a quorum. If you're looking on your agenda, you'll see old business. That was a discussion of waivers for subdivisions previously approved to subdivide in named subdivisions. That was Mr. Goff, and Mr. Goff is not present, so we're going to skip that, and if he comes in toward the end of the meeting, we'll take it up. If not, it'll be pulled. We're going to move down to new business, and we have several items for amending, and that's Mr. Kistler. Is that that's Parish President DeLatte's item, and he'll come present it.
Guys, what I want to do is give y'all a little background on where we at on this, and I'm going to let Steve provide the technical information, okay? Basically, what I'm asking to do is for the council to make clear that we have the ability and want to collect the occupational tax license. And the sheriff of Livingston Parish is currently collecting that because we gave him the authority to do that. They are less than half the sheriffs. There's 64 parishes. There's 29 parishes that allow the sheriff to collect it, and we collect it. The remaining parishes are collected by local government. I want to turn that 29 to 28. We would be able to save the 15% that we are currently paying. In addition to that, I believe we would collect more than $1 million when we look at other people's parishes and the business and the population. We have opportunities by year 3 to maybe even tripling that amount, the $1 million that we are currently collecting. We're going to actively go out and collect the money. We're not going to do it on an honor basis. This administration feels that if you pass a law, it applies to everybody, not just on some of the guys. And we think that we can do a much better job in-house and save the 15% and collect even more money. Just on a 4-year, 5 years, just think about that, guys. You're talking about $8, $9, $10 million you may be throwing away that we need desperately. We just was able to, that legislator has passed a law at the Capitol that, and this is the reason why we need this money, to bring another judgeship to this judicial system. We don't even have money in the budget to pay for a desk, much less go hire another court reporter and pay for these expenses. So we by the dime, we need every penny that we're capable of collecting, and we know that we can collect those license fees much better than the sheriff can, and it will provide much needed services to our local government. Having said that, I'm going to ask Mr. Steve Kistler, who's going to be running this department, to come up here and state what he's doing. And as I said before, this is all in-house people we currently have. We will not be hiring anybody. Okay.
President DeLatte, I have a question for you, if you don't mind, before you walk off. The 15% paid to the sheriff, is that he returns the licensing money to the parish government and keeps a 15% fee for himself? Or does he keep the entire fee and the 15%?
It's my understanding per year has been averaging between, because we had COVID in there, somewhere around 140 to 160,000 a year is what he's keeping. The big issue for us is not only the 140 or the 160,000, whatever it is, what year, is that we know we can increase by making it fair that everyone pays and not just some. So.
How is it currently being done? Are you aware?
Currently, it's almost like an honor system. You go to the sheriff's department, you say, look, I want to pay my occupational license. It's supposed to be based on the amount of sales. So they say, look, I sold X amount of money. You know, they're not looking at anything or checking anything. You know, we're going to have a staff. We're going to be working with all the license boards. We're going to be working with all the people out there. So.
Okay.
And this can only be collected in the rural areas, not in the municipalities now.
Right. Thank you.
There's another advantage.
Mr. Kistler, could I have you give your name and
I'm sorry.
Identify yourself?
My name's Steve Kistler. I'm currently employed with the parish as a compliance officer. There is one other advantage to doing this. Mr. DeLatte, during the campaign cycle, had made a promise to attempt to make the people's access to and navigating the government simpler. Right now, to get permits and licenses, they could have to go to up to 3 different places and 3 different buildings. So this would allow us, these changes would allow us to bring all that into at least one building, if not even the same office, so that when the public has to come get a permit, a license, sometimes they have to do 2, like to get your sewer permit, you also have to get your electrical permit. So this would allow the public easier access to the government and make it easier for them in their daily lives. So that is an added benefit to making these changes. There are 2 different places that need to have, or 2 different sections of our code that need to have changes made. The first one is under Section 6, and I think y'all probably have copies.
We do.
This is concerning alcohol permits. In what I sent over, I put the change that we desire in bold. And so you can see that it's a generic wording that says a department designated by the parish president. So at some point in the future, other arrangements can be made. He could transfer that responsibility to some other department. It wouldn't have to stay in one specific place, thereby, you know, avoiding any headaches in the future as far as where that is housed within the parish. The second section that needs to be or would need to be modified is Section 42, and there's several subsections in Section 42 that need to be amended. So what I took the liberty of doing is activating a new Section 42-5, which is not currently in the Code of Ordinances, that outlines a procedure that the parish president would have to use to designate the new department. And it would also strengthen if at some point in the future an outside entity is chosen to do this collection. It specifies that a cooperative endeavor agreement would have to be completed. That would allow you as the council to dictate the terms and also give us a legally binding document that would set those terms and we could enforce. Right now, we have no control over how it's enforced. But when this cooperative endeavor would be created as dictated by the change that we're proposing, then we would have a document can be enforced, and our rights, their rights are spelled out. The remaining sections or remaining subsections are all within section 42, 97, 129, 335, and 336. So that's why I created just the one new, so that each of these subsections wouldn't have to be modified to say that same wording, because 42.5 would apply to everything in section 42.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Would this, what would be the name or the title of this new department or whatever we're trying to create here?
As it stands right now, would be under the umbrella
That's what I'm
of
getting
the
at, yeah.
permit and planning section.
Are they operating at the same level, or they're umbrella underneath is what I'm getting at? Yeah.
Underneath.
Okay.
It would not be a separate department.
Right.
It would be a new section within the permitting and planning.
But it's all about making life easier for people to come in.
That's one of the biggest advantages, because again, right now as it stands, you'd have, if you're wanting to start a business, you might have to go to 3 different places.
We're all aware of that one, yeah.
So
Yes, sir.
if we're able to enact this, they'd have to go at a minimum, at a maximum to 2 offices, but within the same building. And hopefully, and it's going to be, the desire is to put all that in one office so that they just have to go to one place.
And that would be the permit office to get this right.
Yes, as it's being designed now, yes.
So what you're looking to do is you're looking to have the permit office manage this process and this procedure of applying for a permit and issuing the permit, as well as the collection of the money.
Correct.
And essentially, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So would that include electricity, sewer, and what else?
The licensing.
License to operate, yes.
There are certain permits that are issued by LoSEP, and certain notifications that have to be made there during some of the construction, as far as getting permits to put some utilities. So that would all be brought into under that umbrella.
Okay, I follow you. Thank you. All right.
Have you made contact with the sheriff on this? I just didn't know. I know that's what it was before, but
Full disclosure is the sheriff and I have been talking about this for some months, and we've reached a stalemate. So full disclosure is he wants to collect, and we have the right to collect, and it's beneficial to parish government. So.
gotcha.
And Parish President, this might be for you also. How did we get to the situation that we're in currently? Were you in the council, or was that part of your stint in the police jury to know how this got shifted from the parish council to the sheriff's office for collection?
Well,
or Ms. Kistler, if you know.
I don't know when it was, but it was probably the wish of the council or the police jury or someone else for him to do the collection. He wouldn't have did it on his own unless someone gave him authority.
Okay.
Well, as you know, my wife was the council clerk before she became, and she had no recollection of any kind of a written agreement that we could get our hands on. We couldn't find one in any of our research. I was asked to research the subject itself, and it appears state law makes the sheriff the collection of taxes by default. So in other words, if nobody else is to do it, he does it. It falls on him.
Understood.
So that's what this would do. Apparently this was passed at some point, and it was just, you know.
And the one issue I want to make clear is there's 29 parishes out of 64 that still uses the sheriff. If we choose not to use the sheriff, it's 28 out of 64.
Okay.
So there is a precedence, a pattern of the local governments collecting this themselves.
Okay. Ms. Sandy, are you aware of anything going back to this?
Our question is like for the alcohol permits, people are going to 3 different places. They have to go to the school board, then they come to us, then they have to go to the sheriff's office. And if it's raining, or if our office isn't open, or their office isn't open, we were just wondering, is the permit office going to be taken over full time?
Y'all give us that authority. That's what we're asking for, authority. If you give us the authority.
Yeah, the first one that you looked at, section 6-27, that pertains to the alcohol permit. So yeah, that function would be brought in now. We have.
Each one of them is going to be up to you. You know, we broke it out. You pick and choose. Or I'm actually for all of them. I hope I can get that support if I can. I understand.
We don't have a way to collect money. The only money we collect is like for map money or for records request. Yeah. Okay. And we send that. It's pennies compared to what they're talking about.
Okay.
For the auditor too, the auditor was on board with this because of the money collection.
We were losing money. Yeah.
Well, it's specified in state law that he can keep 15%. Now there's a table also embedded in that law that would allow him to keep up to 17%. So at a minimum, he's keeping 15%. He collects it, keeps 15%, and then sends the remainder to us. I don't know if he's keeping the 15 or the 17, but he can keep up to 17%.
Okay.
And so let me just clarify, if a different entity collects it, he doesn't get the 15 or 17%?
That's correct.
So the other collecting agency would actually collect that percentage?
Since we'd collect it, we'd keep the entirety.
Keep that.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Erdy?
I'm just curious about the procedure when somebody is owing and just don't want to come in the door to pay their bill, or they're late or whatever. You work with compliance, right?
Correct.
And I know y'all's procedure, how it works with y'all when there's a compliance issue. How fast could we get people to come on in? The procedure y'all be using, maybe, have y'all thought about that yet?
It would be modeled after that same thing. We would discuss it with them first, and we'd send them written notification, notice of violation, and in the end, if they still refuse, then we'd take legal action.
Okay.
Creating the database, guys, is where we got to start at, okay? If we're only collecting $1 million, it's based on sales. My rough estimate is less than 1/6 of the applicants are paying. We think more than 5 times the applicants are not paying, and even the ones that are paying, they're paying the truth, because there's no documentation being provided with what they pay. It's our honor system currently, and the honor system is not working, or it's not fair if everyone has to pay, to get an occupational license that has a business. The honor system is not fair to the ones that are paying, and that's where we're trying to get this straight. One, yes, it's great to be proactive and have a convenience for the citizens to go to an improvement. But the main thing is to make sure everybody's being treated fairly and being treated equally. And that's what we have to do.
Any other questions for him?
I'm good with that.
I would like to research some more. Look, I'm just now seeing it right now.
And I tried to persuade you. The thing that you don't see is the money or the length of the. For instance, if you got an occupational license, if you're supposed to provide for the license, and if you chose not to come and pay, you don't have to, because no one's enforcing that part of it, okay? The law says you have to pay for occupational license. You could do anything you want to. If I have the power to collect, I'm going to intend on collecting that money and aggressively going out and asking those people that haven't been paying to pay this year. I'm not going to go back. I know people say let's offer amnesty. Maybe that's what you call it, amnesty. I'm not going back 10 years from now, 20 years from now if you didn't pay a license. But if you got a business right now and your neighbor's paying in a business, you should pay too. And you should pay the correct amount.
I agree also with what you're proposing, but we just got tons of ordinances in this, and we just got...
Listen, it's up to y'all. It's not up to us. It's not up to the sheriff. I'm telling you, it's up to y'all. So
I would tend to agree with what Ms. Sandiford said, and just give us a little bit of time to look over all these documents prior to making a decision.
Believe me, it's up to y'all. It's up to y'all.
Want to do a vote?
Well, we need to see if we get a motion.
I'll make the motion now.
Motion to.
How would you word that to?
Make a motion to postpone until the next ordinance meeting, or defer it to the next ordinance meeting.
Postpone.
Yeah.
Postpone.
Either way.
We just took that parliamentary procedure class.
Missed it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're taking...
I second it.
So I think you're making the motion.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion to postpone until the next ordinance meeting.
I'll second it.
And that would give us an opportunity to look at everything. Okay.
One more piece of information,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if you allow me. The sheriff, to be fair to him, he has a time limit because that fiscal year is different than our fiscal year. So whatever we have to do, we have to have that done before July, if we take it away from it.
All right.
Council or ordinance?
So we would have time.
Okay.
To create an ordinance?
No. What we would have to do
You'd actually
is we would have to
have to introduce it at the next meeting and then adopt it on the
Special ordinance
27th, June 27th.
Because it would be introduced at the 27th, not adopted. Not saying we'll have to do it, but.
Can we do a special ordinance meeting before then to give us a time to look at this and then call for a special ordinance meeting?
Have to have 2 weeks.
To be introduced the 13th, to be adopted by.
I'm just going to say, I don't like the
Short timeness of it, yeah.
There are some things that I would like to look into, and, you know, I really need to look a little bit closer. I really do. This is a big one to change on
short notice.
Short notice.
Without being able to do research.
I agree with that, guys. Listen, I'm not saying you don't have to do research. I'm just asking, fundamentally, are you against us collecting the money because we're not capable of doing it, or fundamentally because you think it's a better deal the sheriff collects it?
I don't disagree with anything you're saying, Randy, and I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I just think there's no disagreeing, and there's no, I don't think what you're doing is right. We just got this literally.
I agree with that part. That part I agree with, but I guess I was asking a question differently. I understand you can't make a decision tonight because you just got the information. I'm 100% in agreement with that. I'm asking fundamentally, do we have any objections to us collecting that fundamentally? Or do you think the sheriff could collect it better than us? I'm not asking you to make a decision, okay? I'm asking fundamentally if y'all have a problem with parish government being in the majority of the remaining parish governments in collecting this. I'm asking that question. Is that a fair question? But I ain't, then I'll retract it.
Well, I would say this, and I'm just speaking for myself.
Sure, definitely.
I think that that's a tough question to answer without actually doing the research to be able to say one way or the other on the question.
And what type of research is that, guys? I forget.
Well, I would like to see what all we're changing in all of these ordinances that we were just handed.
Yes.
You know?
That's fair enough. You know,
I don't know what the process is that the sheriff utilizes in order to collect these funds. I don't know what the process is that y'all would utilize. I know you're saying that someone would come into an office and it'd be a lot easier for them because they could come in there, and y'all would also have an enforcement unit, which I do like that. I like that everyone would have to collect, or everyone would have to pay into it, if that's what the law says for them to do. However, I don't know how all the moving pieces work at this point, because I've just got it today.
Yes, sir.
I just got it less than 30 minutes ago.
And I can understand that. But what I want to say and make clear now, the stuff that you got to research is the stuff we have in bold. That's what we want to change, what's in bold, okay? If you want to change something different, then you will have to propose that. We're not proposing anything but what's in bold, because we know as parish government what it takes to collect. We have been doing that, okay? We know that it's the 15% that we're giving away is much needed, because you want someone to go cut the grass on a parish road you got now. I don't have a tractor to put over there, but there's $150,000 I just gave away. I could go buy a brand new tractor. So you can't ask for services and tell the people you're helping them, and you see a way to help them, and then say, look, I'm just going to kick this can down the road. And take all the time in the world you got, but time is money, and people are looking. That's all I'm saying.
One other weakness that I want to point out is talking about enforcement. Who is responsible for enforcement as it sits right now?
Can I ask you this? Just kind of popping. If we put it all under the permit office, and like we said, the umbrella, will it ever go over to compliance, or it leaves here and goes to be enforced? I mean, at the permit office, where does it go out the door to get collected?
Well, the compliance section is under that same umbrella. That compliance section is also under permitting and planning. So we're all housed within that same umbrella. So yes, it will get forwarded to compliance, and in fact will be responsible for following up on those who don't get a license. Of course, we'll have to build our database, and we'll do mail outs and such as that. But yeah, ultimately, and right now, like what I was alluding to, who does do that enforcement?
Well, yeah,
do we do that?
Well,
Or does the sheriff's office do that as far as enforcement of, people who fail? Right now, all we do is, if we run across that violation, is tell them they've got to, and after that, it's it.
Well, that's why we kind of asking for a little bit of time to talk this out.
Yeah,
That's why we're asking that.
in all fairness, I do think that I would like to hear from the sheriff, and I would say that if Sheriff Ard were standing in front of us asking it reversed, I would want to hear from Parish President DeLatte. I need to go and look at the money, what's going on with the money, and the department that you're proposing it designated to. You're not stating the department in the ordinance, you're just saying the department designated.
So to clarify, parish president's in charge of all departments. Each parish president could put any department where he wants to, okay? So when we come here, we're asking for one thing: either give me the permission to collect it, or give the sheriff the permission. You haven't given the permission to anyone to collect, okay? So either way, go ahead and do that. How do you think taking $150,000 out of your budget every year to give to the sheriff is a win-win? I can't figure that out, no matter how much research I do. I can't figure that out. It's a nuts and bolts thing. Take all the time you need to read what you need, but don't. It's either the sheriff collects it and he keeps the money, or you collect and you keep the money. I mean, that's what it's about. Yes, the sheriff wants to keep the money. When I told you at meeting at the meeting, we've met. He says, I needed to balance my budget. Well, guess what? I don't have enough money to provide the services I have to do or balance my budget. He's in a bigger surplus. I have no surplus. So that's where we're at.
Sandy, did you have something to add?
Regarding section 6-27, I would support that for them to be able to do the permitting like that. That it just makes sense because it's so split up right now, and we don't have any way to accept money, and they do. If you would go ahead and introduce it June 13th, you would have 2.5 weeks till the 27th to research. And on the 27th, if you don't like it, you can always say you don't want to adopt it. But it's a time restraint thing right now that that's just my recommendation.
Currently, we've had a lot of interactions at the council saying that we want things to be ready to go when we bring it there. We've had a lot of that talk. So, you know, now we're hearing different feedback, but we'd definitely like to make sure that it's ready to go when we bring it, I would think. But do we have a motion?
Well, there's a motion and a second on the floor right now.
Motion and a second, okay.
To
postpone to the next ordinance committee meeting.
So if we don't postpone, I guess we need to decide.
Take any action, does it automatically go to the next meeting?
No, it's not listed. Y'all would have to make a recommendation to introduce it.
The next ordinance committee meeting.
Oh, no. Yeah, you don't have to.
These amendments are ready to go, right? This is everything.
They're in ordinance form. They're ready to go. Yep. Yep. And they've been sent to legal counsel for them to review as well.
I see what Randy is saying, and I know there is a time crunch with him, and
Hey guys, I want to clarify. Go ahead and your first instinct, go ahead and do what you got to do. The time crunch is not for me. It was for the sheriff to say if he's not collecting it, how is he going to put it on his July? But that's okay. That gives him enough 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, what it is, to lobby you each as an individual, because he's going to lobby you as an individual saying, you know, I need this money instead of y'all. So. Yep.
And so what happens after his deadline? Tell me what happens after his deadline.
The only thing I was bringing up, July, if we take it away from him and didn't tell him we was taking away from him, he puts it into his budget, then how does he make his budget work from that point on? I wouldn't want nobody to do me that. That's why I did full disclosure.
And he builds his budget.
I understand. Yeah, I get it.
what do y'all want to do?
I wonder if he would hold his budget, or can he?
Sure.
Dee Dee Delat, and I am over the permit and building department. Every day we get complaints from councilmen and the public to go look at high grass, junk places, abandoned places, bad mobile homes, structures. I have 3 compliance officers. That's all we have, because we don't have the money to hire other ones. So y'all want us to help, and you want us to work on the complaints that y'all get, but we cannot do it if we don't have the revenue to be able to hire the extra people to do it. So this is another form of us being able to get revenue to provide the services that the people elected all of y'all for. Not just the parish president, but each and every one of you as well. So I know it's frustrating whenever y'all call and say, well, hey, why hasn't somebody been out? Why hadn't anything been done? Do you know when somebody's coming to check on this problem that I called you about? When you don't have but 3 people, that's all you could do right now. So I beg you to consider, please. We need to try to get some type of revenue coming into where we could get some extra people hired to be able to perform the services that each and every one of y'all ran on. Thank you.
And Mr. Latt, if you don't mind, I don't think that what you're asking for is what we're objecting to.
Oh, absolutely.
By
No,
any means.
no.
What we're trying to do is have enough time to make educated, informed votes on things that we're doing.
I understand completely. I wasn't making any kind of accusations or assuming that y'all were not.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted you to see our side as well.
Right.
Because I know being on your side, it is frustrating if you think nothing's getting done. We want to be active, proactive, but we only have the resources to do so much. So any time or any chance we may could get some extra revenue, we would appreciate it. And this obviously and definitely would be one way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mangus?
Thank you. John Mangus, 13065 Catahoula Drive, Denham Springs, Louisiana. Councilman, District 6. This question's from Ms. Sandy. Are these, if we put this on the council agenda for the June 13th meeting, that's this Thursday. I mean, is that too soon? Does that violate?
We'll go under committee reports.
Okay, because it's 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
All right. What happens if Mr. Coates and the Ordinance Committee agrees to do that? If it's not kosher, for lack of a better term, then would it die? I mean, it's just for introduction, right? We're not...
It would be an introduction at the next council meeting, and then it would go for public hearing on the next council meeting.
May 7th.
So I think this would fit under timeliness, and it went through the Ordinance Committee. I think I would support it if I were in your shoes. Give the introduce it, and then give the people a chance to talk at the next one, and then vote on it.
We do have enough time to do research. I mean, that's enough time to do research.
I agree with you. I mean, they're ready. They're ready to go. It's not like there's...
It is a timely...
It is, and I wish we would have gotten it sooner, but I think I can sleep at night knowing that I've done the research and it can go to the council meeting.
Yeah,
So we can put it on this Thursday night then.
Thank you.
I make a motion to...
Make a substitute motion.
Substitute motion to send it... What's that?
Y'all can make another one.
I make a substitute motion to send it to the next council meeting.
to be introduced.
To be introduced. All A through F.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Mr. Coates?
Yes.
Ms. Sandiford?
Yes.
Mr. Shavers?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
Yes.
All right, that passes. It'll be
Right. That was easy.
If anybody does want to call and talk to me about the research that I did and point you...
Could you go to the microphone if you don't mind, Mr. Kistler?
If anybody wants to call me and I can point you to the research that I did so that you can, you can get a head start on at least looking on what I did, and then you can compare it to anything else.
I do want to say the compliance department does a wonderful job. Brian Myers is fantastic. Very good at what he does. So, do you have a card or?
I'm going to write my number down.
Okay.
Well, you're going to give it on.
Hey.
Okay.
225-347-3106. That's my cell phone. Everybody I deal with out there on complaints, they get it too. So.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next order of business, we have a PARDS ordinance. Is that correct?
Actually, it's the setbacks, but is that on your agenda? Because that's already moved on to.
I don't see the parts.
It's going to be under. Well, actually, look.
Do you have it on there?
It's John.
Oh, okay, John's next. I got you. Sorry about that.
So for setbacks, that's already moved on to the council, and anyway.
All right, so the next one is going to be discussion of an ordinance for mobile home regulations by John Mangus.
John Mangus, 13065 Catahoula Drive, Denham Springs, Louisiana, Councilman, District 6. First and foremost, I want to let everybody, I have to address you, but everybody in the audience know that this is not done yet. This is not ready to go. I'm not even ready to have it introduced. It's for consideration. There's a problem that I found out when I was elected and when I was trying to be elected. There are mobile homes that are being brought into our parish. I'm not upset with mobile home vendors, retailers, things like that, but we have mobile homes that don't follow state regulations. They're mobile home movers that aren't licensed correctly, and they move these vehicles through here, and they break down, they break things, they hit electrical wires. I have several reports from Waste Management where lines are down and we have to call and try to find out what line it was. We had one particular trailer on Alicia that got stuck in the roundabout, got out of the roundabout, went down Walker South, got on Joe May, took an hour and a half. Mr. Avara, his dad and I were there. It took an hour and a half to get down there. Broke on Alicia. Now I just found out from Ms. DeLotte that there's litigation on it because it's finally on a lot, but it's never going to be permanent. And so the parish has no permitting of the moving of mobile homes. We have permitting of house structures. That is our section 26-2, no, that's Tangipahoa Parish. Let me find ours. Ours is section 110-73. This is house moving.
Do you have that?
But we don't have mobile homes. And Tangipahoa, just to give you an idea, Tangipahoa, Ascension, and I spoke to a gentleman earlier, I'm not supposed to address him, but he said, right, I was elected to represent Livingston Parish, and I do get that, but I want to protect our property values and our legitimate businesses, and I also want to enable our sheriff's department to be able to enforce good legislation, ordinances. So on Tangipahoa Parish, there's section 26-260. Each person who locates or relocates a house structure, mobile home, or any other building type, right? I'll go down it. I gave several people in the audience copies of it. One of the first things they have to do in 26-261 is notification of route. So they need to let the permit office know where the mobile home is going to go. Now, this would not pertain to like a mobile home dealership, it getting delivered to them. This is only after it's coming in our parish as a used one or one that's leaving sold from the lot, and things we can work on. But they have to notify the route. So I would request that they would get a permit for that, and that would tell you where they go, and the sheriff's department will be notified of that, so they'll know, because right now the sheriff's department doesn't know. They could pull them over, but that's kind of obtrusive. This way, they can call it in right there and on radio and can say, hey, is this XYZ builder, home mover, do they have a permit to be going down Joe May? No, they do not. Well, then we can add penalties for that. then an escort required. The escort would be required under the state rules and regulations if it's over the 16 feet wide, I think it is, and things like that. We would determine that they're a legitimate licensed mobile home mover that has insurance, that's bonded, that's all under here. They have to follow all local, state, and federal regulations. Well, the problem is they're supposed to follow the state regulations. Well, we don't have local regulations for the moving of them. This covers if they knock down mailboxes, if they interfere with drainage, if they damage any of that. They need to pay for that. Then you have the penalties for it, which are we can work on the price of the permit, but their penalties are $100 and $500 fines. That's in section 26266. So I'm open to how much the permit office would charge. Tangibahoa's is like 25, but then that's if it's used, and then it's 50 if it's a regular, and what was it? It was like more if it's a double wide. I don't really need to know if we need to make a sliding scale like that, but.
Are you looking to take this exactly and put it into exactly how this is, or are you asking us for suggestions on it?
I'm asking for suggestions. I don't think we want to just copy and paste from another parish.
Have you talked to the planning and permit department about this?
I have.
And what is their...
I think they're willing to do it. It's just that there needs to be good legislation. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I want to speak on behalf of John. We're in favor of this, and the reason is it does several things for us. We got no throughways, okay, on our parish roads, and they have a habit of using those parish roads too because it's a shortcut. This would be a way to find those people and say, look, you knew in advance you couldn't do those things. It does a lot for us also. I know we're not in the revenue business trying to make revenue, but we're in the business of providing services, and sometimes those services cost money. And what John's action is not unreasonable at all.
Right, and I want to, thank you, sir. I want to work with, I mean, I spoke with a lady, gosh, I remember her name. She may be here. What was?
Oh, Candy Forbes,
I think that owns a couple dealerships.
She owns Denham Springs Housing.
Yes, and yep. I spoke with her at length today, and I don't want to make it obtrusive for her. I'm not. That's not the goal. That's not what I was elected to do. But she, just like the gentleman I spoke to here, we pay our taxes, we get our licenses, we do what we're supposed to do, but there are people that use our parish roads that don't do that. Some of them are from other countries, some of them just flat come through here with trailers that are never going to be permanent, and they bring them to die, basically. So I don't want to cite examples, but I can tell you that in Ascension Parish, if somebody buys a lot and there's an old trailer on it, they want to get rid of it, they can hire someone to bring it here and stick it in Livingston. This, we would at least know. I mean, you can ask them, why do you want to move this? What's your route?
I think we can have it, Mr. Mangus.
How
do you have
close?
any questions?
I do. How close are you to having an ordinance ready?
As soon as we're allowed to sit down and non-quorum, yeah, and hammer it out.
I mean, I would like you to present something. I hear the urgency. I have some of the same concerns and issues in District 5. I see them parish-wide. Right. And so I really want to support you.
Great. Then we'll get it. But I need the help from some of the rental property owners and some of the mobile home dealers, because I don't want to make it obtrusive on them. I know they're doing the right thing, but we've got to stop it. I want you to know I do support it. I do support what you're trying to do. I think it's a good idea, and if other parishes are doing it, then we need to get on board. Because we're a soft target for this stuff. And I think it hurts legitimate mobile home sellers. I think it reduces the value of their property.
Okay. I was going to ask you, John, yes, it might be a foolish question, but the mobile home dealerships, they know all the rules. They're big time, millions of dollars. And so when they get ready to move a mobile home to, say, this parish or wherever, and they got to get all their moving permits in order. Now, let's say you got a old trailer just on a country road and you move it over the interstate. Is all the rules and regulations can be the same no matter what? I guess
that's what we'd like to do. We would like to make sure that, because this one has from what is it, from without to within, from within to within, from within to without, from without to without, which is through. I think through, as long as they self-identify and maybe they don't have to pay a actual permit, if they're just going to go straight from like Tangiboa Parish to East Baton Rouge and just stay on I-12, but they still need to identify that route. They still need to let people know. That's what I'm asking, yeah. And we have the Sheriff's Department and Walker Police and Denham Police have those text messages. They can tell you. I mean, I saw one today have issues on 190. And it was pulled by a Ford 250. It was a smaller one, like the kind of FEMA-sized one, but there was no legality there. There was no lights or anything.
Do you happen to know in surrounding parishes, or have you looked into any other parishes from going through the parish without, if there's a permitting process, do they need a permit to go through? And I ask this because it is wear and tear on our roads, and we have to cover that.
And that's something that I'm amenable to doing. It seems to me it would be less sure, because it would be less involved. But yes, and especially now that permit, if they're going to go down I-12 and then go down Walker South and cross over, that's a those are the things that we have to discuss. But we also have to discuss whether this can be stuck into, amend it to our Article 3 house moving, Section 11073 of our ordinances. Because ours says no person shall move or relocate any building or portion thereof from without to within, all through that. But it doesn't say mobile home. That's almost exactly the way Tangiboa is, but it has mobile home in theirs, and West Baton Rouge and all that.
Well, I appreciate the thought that you put into this, and obviously you've put plenty of thought into it. Do we have anyone in the crowd that would like to speak on this? All right, let's give them an opportunity to speak.
All right, Wally Avera, 14318 Brown Road, Denham Springs, Louisiana. And I'm the founder administrator of Livingston Parish Landlords, over 217 landlords in our group. So we're concerned when things like this comes up. I think we have some work to do with it. I want you to very carefully consider some of these regulations. Building type structures in the article that was put in 10 feet or more in length. This is a shed that you buy, a Morgan building. So now we're requiring permits to move a Morgan building or something. I think the length needs to be considered carefully. If we're dealing with mobile homes, that's our concern, then let's make the length what a mobile home might be and not what a Morgan building might be. So one of the concerns that we have is restricting or considering restriction of the age of mobile homes or bringing in older mobile homes into our parish. As a landlord, I have mobile homes that are, I think my oldest one may be 1989, and I've seen some that are 5 years old that look worse. All right, so if you're just looking at the age itself of a mobile home, it doesn't tell you anything about how well it's structured, how rusted out the frame is, because if it wasn't installed properly, water gets up under it, rust out the frame rather quickly, versus an older one that was done right, the frame is still in good shape. So considering the age, I know many of our young families start their journey in an old mobile home. My wife and myself bought a mobile home in 1986. We've been married 38 years. Our first mobile home we bought was 1 month after we graduated high school. It had been flooded up to the ceiling twice. When you walk in the door, you fall through the floor. So,
can I say one thing real quick?
Sure.
I don't want to put.
You mentioned it.
I did, but on this ordinance is only for the moving.
Yeah, that's what I was confused about.
So
you did mention when you was up here, you mentioned about old mobile homes come to die in our parish.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But that does not.
Mr. Mangus, it's his turn to speak.
Okay. All right. I didn't want to argue. I want to say that.
No, not arguing. Mobile homes come to die in this parish is what was said. Okay. I lived in an old mobile home because it's what I could afford. All right. We started our life in that. We bought a newer one. Now we have houses. Now we have rental properties. If this ordinance would have been considered, then I would be in another parish probably. Also, many of our landlords give away. I've given away to myself older mobile homes to young couples that was getting married. I bought newer ones and gave the mobile home away. If this ordinance would be considered not to move an older mobile home, now I would be stuck with that mobile home. Couldn't give it to somebody that could use it, but then now I have to do something with it, tear it down, costing me extra money to demolish it. Or I would leave it there and let it die in this parish and not worry about it. So please consider what these restrictions are going to cause. None of us have a problem with having permits to move mobile home. We have to have a permit to put it on the properties anyway. It would seem very simple to add it to that permit to list the mover and go from there instead of an additional permit, but that's just my personal feeling. None of us are going to stand up and fight against having a permit to move a mobile home to where you know the routes and who's moving it and they're insured and all this stuff. That's understandable, but please consider in the future anything else that may come up that how it can affect the people in this parish.
Well, Mr. Avery, I will say this. We do already have something kind of in place, the wind zone ratings, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that kind of restricts some of the age of mobile homes that come in.
Some, but if it's within the Livingston Parish and if it's not of the wind zone, it can still be moved in the same area.
Correct. Just can't bring any from outside the parish in.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
I'm quite familiar with those.
I appreciate those comments.
Yes, sir. Just want to be considerate of young couples trying to start off, and not everybody can start off in a $300,000 house. Right. We want them to get there, but we need to not make it to where it's not affordable for young couples to live in Livingston Parish. That's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm Randy Stone. I live at 16741 Greenville Springs Road in Greenville Springs, Louisiana. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I only found out about this yesterday, and then I got some of these proposals today, so I just glanced over them. I was involved in moving my first mobile homes over 40 years ago, and I currently own a mobile home park, and I've owned other mobile home parks in the past, so I've been dealing with this quite a bit. I'm a little surprised that, and I know sometimes departments don't coordinate well, but we have a governor-appointed mobile home commission for the state of Louisiana. It's a board that governs all mobile home movement and regulations for the whole state. Now, maybe there's just no cooperation there, or maybe nobody's contacting them. That the state, this mobile home commission, it actually uses the fire marshal's office to do their police. So it'd be a great benefit to the parish instead of enacting more ordinances, if they could utilize the state and the fire marshal services that are already in place. And I know because when I dealt with them after the flood, my mobile home park, like a lot of places there right next to Denham Springs, flooded. I lost over like 18 mobile homes, not in a flood zone like a lot of places, flooded, had to destroy those mobile homes, and FEMA put some mobile homes in there. Well, then when I went to replace them after FEMA left, well, I dealt with the fire marshal's office and the mobile home commission. So I know they have a permitting process, and also the state has legislation and requirements on the length and size of mobile homes that need police escorts, that don't need police escorts, that need maybe an escort service but not polices. All this is already in the state ordinances, so I'm not sure, you know, why we can't coordinate with these, and it looks like it would save the parish a lot of money not having to police this themselves. So, and then as far as these proposals here, I'm not dead set against an extra permit, you know, but right off the bat, like this gentleman pointed out, this particular permit, you know, proposal, it had some language in there about buildings over 10 foot. Well, that definitely should be stricken. And I'll tell you another issue that's in Baton Rouge that I wouldn't want to see come over here. Even though the state has requirements for when you need an escort only and when you need a police escort, well, Baton Rouge City Police took it on themselves. You don't pull a trailer through there, any trailer, unless you pay the Baton Rouge City Police this escort fee. Their motorcycle service would, and I would hate for that to bleed over here, even though Baton Rouge City doesn't have a good ordinance to support that, and the state certainly doesn't have an ordinance, but the Baton Rouge City Police, the motorcycle division, looked at that another way to generate income. So I wouldn't want to see some of those policies bleed over here. And as far as in this proposal, when y'all are looking at it, there's language in there about Board of Health approval and all other permitting before you can even get a permit to move it. Well, let me tell you in reality what happens. I'm not a dealer like Candy Forbes and them. I know their operation over there. But after the hurricane, after the flood, I was buying some. FEMA would not sell me the mobile homes that were placed on my property. They had to pay contractors to move them to a site on Sherwood Forest, and then they would do whatever they do. Then I would have to bid on them online like everybody else, and I bought a bunch of them and moved them back. Well, you don't have days or weeks. You bid on them. If you get them, you got 24 hours to pay for them, and you got 48, I think it might have been 48 or 72 hours to get them off their property. So I had to have all that lined up. Well, I didn't know if I was going to be awarded 4 mobile homes or 10 mobile homes. I was going to buy whatever I could. So for me to be able to follow a guideline like this, I just don't see how that would be feasible. And some of those, I own over 10 acres there. I own 5 acres next to my mobile home park. Well, I had to get them off of their lot, so I had to drag them over there and drop them. So just be careful when you make those kind of ordinances. Think of everybody that might be involved. That would have been very difficult for me and probably others. And, you know, the only thing that I would, of course, this talks about, I'm never for jail time. I'm for fines maybe, but jail time I would not be in favor of. And affordable housing, we're probably, well, one thing, 50% of the housing in the United States, and it might be higher in Livingston Parish, are run by mom and pop organizations like mine and some of these other people here. They're not run by big corporations. And so, you know, it's already very difficult for us to offer affordable housing. Any of these, I'm not against dropping trash trailers on the side of the road. I want Livingston Parish to stay clean. All my businesses in Livingston Parish are clean, don't get me wrong. But any fees that you add eventually gets down to make affordable housing harder and harder to offer. Rents typically lag inflation and other cost increase 3 to 5 years. Now, I've been doing this for over 20 years in some way, shape, or form. I have 150 tenants in one way, shape, or form, mobile home parks, RV parks, rent houses. And I can tell you, even though I've increased some of my rents, I make less now after the last 3 or 4 years than I did 5 years ago, because all my costs have gone up. So any permit you put on me, guess where it's going to be passed? It's going to be passed right down to the tenant, if not this year, next year, the next year. And Livingston Parish, like most parishes, are way behind on affordable housing. So I would just keep that in mind when y'all are setting your fees up and everything. Because that money's not going into my pocket. What that money's going, it's being passed on to that tenant that's trying to.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Randy. This what John Mangus gave us. Do you have this, or you have something else?
I did. He handed it to me right as the meeting started, and that's what I made those few little comments just.
Okay. So how does the transportation requirements of a mobile home affect your mobile home park?
Well, from time to time, like after the flood, I did a lot of transportation, you know, and I still have 3 vacant lots over there that I'm going to have to fill. Either I'm going to have to lease those to somebody that owns their mobile home, and they're going to have to transport them, or I watch the sales all the time. So like I was saying, if I have to go back and buy one from the government auction, or any auction for that matter, they're only going to give you 48 hours to get it off their lot. So that means in that time period between I win that bid to the time I would have to get this permit, get the sewer permit, get all these permits down to be able to move it to my location legally if we adopted this.
I think what I'm more so specifically asking, and I'll just read some of the sections of this example. So like an escort requirement, damage to property, the penalties, how would that affect transporting? How would that affect your mobile home park?
Well, like I said, if I fill these vacant spaces, all this applies to me.
In a negative way or in a positive way?
No, it could be negative. Like I said, if you put any of those fees eventually pass on, and some of it's not even feasible. If I win a bid over there at that GSA auction, I have 24 hours to pay for it. I think I have 48 to 72 hours to get it off the lot and get it on my place. That's not feasible. It's not feasible for me to have to buy this structure. And I know this is maybe not what you, but I'm just telling you that's what you need to think about, because this structure says that I would have to have all these permits. I would have to have the sewer approved. Well, I can tell you, sewer department don't move that fast. They're not going to approve the sewer and all that within 24 hours and have me a permit to move it. So GSA don't care. They don't care about your permits. They care that I'm going to get it off of their property. It's yours now. Get it out of here.
Well, I'll say this last thing. So I worked, as you know, we did a lot of FEMA trailer moving after the flood, working for a company, helped thousands of people in Livingston Parish. And some of the damage, and not just by our company, but other companies that were moving mobile homes, FEMA trailers in and out, were damaging people's property. They were damaging our roads, our highways. Culverts were being crushed. Sure. Mailboxes were being tore down, and there was really no accountability.
Well, part of that problem, because I was also involved in that. I owned toter trucks. I had movers. I was involved in all that. I did some subcontracting for Timberline over in Texas. Part of the problem when you have a natural disaster is all ordinances are waived. All of them. There is no ordinance. You move 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all that stuff is waived. And then the parishes and the local people, the government feels like, well, we're giving you all this, so it's up to you to pick up the pieces. And that's what happened.
Yep.
But that's not, what you're talking about is not normal conditions.
Well, right, but it's still in the grand scheme of things. If you look at this and apply it to a natural disaster where FEMA is bringing in 1,500 to 2,000 FEMA trailers and the ordinances are not waived, I think this is pretty beneficial, especially when it comes to the penalties, but that's if the ordinances are not waived.
Well, they always waive them under any national, I mean, I've been multiple national disasters, and they waive them, right? I mean, that's just what they do. But that's what I'm telling you, the state you already have, if you were involved with Timberline, you know they have a state mobile home commission, and they have like 7 board members that are appointed by the governor's office. Mm-hmm. So that's what, and they use the fire marshal's office for their policing. I know, because when I started moving trailers over there in my place, fire marshal's office showed up like that. Who's moving them? Where's your permits? Where's your license?
I think we're getting a little bit off subject here.
But I do want to say on record, Timberline was, I did work for them, but I'm not saying that they were the ones that, I just want that on record, that they were not the ones that was damaging the property. They subcontracted stuff just
I get it.
To clear
I get it.
myself there.
I didn't know, I appreciate it. I'm sorry I took up
No,
so
you're
much
good.
of your time.
No, that's fine.
And I thought that all
just had to keep your comments germane to what the agenda item is.
I thought it was about the permit and ordinances.
Right, but not about the use and police and all this and
Part of your ordinance.
The parks.
That's part of your escort ordinance in this suggested one.
Okay.
Well, thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Stone.
And one thing if I can add, the 20 section, and this is just proposed, but in the section 26-265, local, state, and federal regulations, prior to obtaining a moving permit, all local, state, and federal regulations and requirements must be met, and approval of the Board of Health and sanitary sewage. Okay, that's only if you're planning to move it to then locate it and live in it, obviously, right? If you're just moving it through the parish, I don't see why that would, that section 26-265. So that's something that we can definitely look at. And looking through this again, I didn't see the section on the 10 feet, because you're right, that is a Morgan shed. We do have that in our Livingston Parish Code. That's under the, not mobile homes, but we have under moving houses or structures or buildings. Yeah, sure. Show me the 10 feet, because I want to strike that.
Yeah, so under, I'm Stephen Avera, by the way, off of Clayfisher Road in Denham Springs. But up top, second
10 feet or more. Yeah, because
I just want
thank you. A mobile home is 16, right?
It says length and width on here.
Okay.
Anything over 8 foot.
Right.
Right. So it says 10 feet or more width and 10 feet more length as well.
Yeah. So the length is the issue. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Standard, the FEMA were what, 60?
All right, I think we've got enough. John, let's work on the ordinance and try to present it, and then we can go through the strike-throughs and alterations to that ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Real quick, if y'all would.
Yes, sir.
I hate coming up here, but I did hear something that pegged my hearing. We were talking about permits for the sewer. If you don't do that, you need to at least have some kind of, some letter from the health unit, because we've recently run into a couple of trailers that were moved onto lots that they've called me to say, hey, where are we going to put the sewer? And there's no ditches anywhere to run it. So if they don't have a permit for sewer, we need to at least know where they're going to plan on doing it. So the lot we're looking at that we went and looked at was not big enough to do the sprinkler. system. So, you know, that's a potential issue. Even if you don't require the permit before moving it, they at least need to tell the parish where they're going to discharge to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
No.
Okay, we have one more. We have a PARD ordinance. We have information on that.
Under other business.
Yes, if you could come up and give us a...
Ms. Norris is to speak to it.
Thank you for allowing me. I'm Julie Dyson Norris, and I am the chairman of the PARDS board, which is Parks and Recreation District 3. We have 4 parks in our system. And I passed out this document to you. We are asking you all to create an ordinance to address an issue that we've had concerns about, and I'm not going to take much of your time. I actually would like to just ask that this ordinance be created by either legal, administration. I don't know how you go about getting the ordinance created. So we're making the request, and if this board would, you know, allow that to move forward and try and have something be put into the correct form. What it is our situation is that we, you know, deem it reasonably necessary to provide an ordinance to implement our rules and regulations, and that so that we will provide a safe and public use of the PARDS areas, the facilities for the recreational benefit and enjoyment of the public. For the protection, we already have rules and regulations. We're just asking for an enforcement arm. The sheriff has said that an ordinance would be required for that. So we are asking you all to create an ordinance that would allow law enforcement the authority to enforce our rules and regulations.
May I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Do your rules and regulations abide by state law?
Absolutely.
Then I don't see how we would be being redundant here to create something in addition to state law when state law already exists.
Well, of course, this is a public facility, and the sheriff's department is telling us that they don't have a right to enforce our rules. So that we needed to ask you all for a ordinance that gives them the authority to enforce a law. Let's say if our law says you can't have dogs come into our park system, we want to protect our people that are there from dogs for whatever reason. Well, they're saying they cannot ask someone to leave the premises because they have a dog. So basically, it's a free-for-all.
Okay, so basically what you're asking for is things like the dog. If y'all exclude dogs from the premises, then I can understand that the sheriff wouldn't come in and enforce that because there's not a law to enforce such a law unless the owner of the property prohibited them or something like that. But anyway, that would be a whole nother ball game.
Of course, I don't know all the state laws, but I'll use another example. If
did you provide us a list of the rules that you were specifically speaking about?
No, but we have. You all have. You know, the PARDS board. Similar to what you all are taking up with your ordinances, you know, we go into all of the discussions about what our rules and regulations are. You know, it might be no alcohol on the premises. I think there would be a law that said that you can't, I mean, that they could enforce with, you know, drunken behavior, but I don't know about alcohol just being present on the property. But that is our requirement. Or something like, you know, riding a bicycle on a sidewalk. You know, there are walking paths that we don't allow bicycles on. Everywhere else in the park, you can have your bicycle, but not on the walking trails.
Does PARDS have an attorney that y'all utilize?
You know, we work under the parish umbrella, and so in the past we have inquired of, and Sandy may be able to help us with that. I think we've asked Blaine Honeycutt. I don't know why or how. why Blaine. He was
umbrella thing. He was
the attorney forever, and so when in the past we've asked Blaine's opinion on that. I was asking if the parish could, create the ordinance just that we could, or the board was asking administration, create the ordinance to create that ordinance and then have your legal look at it.
Is this just for PARDS District 3?
Yes. Parks and Recreation, the whole North Park, South Park, LM Lockhart, and the Pines at North Park.
Okay.
Our 3 facilities.
Excuse me. When using these parks, is this for 7 days a week or for ball tournaments on a weekend?
7 days a week.
Okay, and are y'all having trouble with spectators or coaches or fans? Is that part of the issue too, besides the dogs and all?
No, I don't.
Well, the reason I say that is because as an official, I've been here to Livingston and all, I've saw LP go to these parks and tend to a problem right here in Livingston and other parks too, other sheriff's departments and stuff, and I'm just wondering why.
Well, we have had the sheriff always. This is just something that recently came up that we were told, and then in speaking with Sheriff Ard, he, because we didn't know, did just that sheriff's deputy not know whether he could do this or that or whatever. But in speaking with Sheriff Ard, he also recommended that we needed an ordinance.
Well, I'm not proud of this, but I had 2 people picked up off the park by the LP who was giving me a bad time. We're giving at the park, they were just unruly.
Right. Well,
and they come got them.
That is an example of the kind of rules, that we haven't had that as an issue that I would say, but that's not to say that we won't. We certainly have issues.
That's weekend ball generally. Yeah. That's travel ball tournaments.
Right.
It's not 7 days a week is what I'm saying.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Mr. Chair.
Okay, I think that what you had asked, or tell me if I'm incorrect on this, but you asked if y'all could write an ordinance and have our legal look at it to determine if it fit
I'm
our
not
criteria.
sure. I mean, you're welcome to take this and make it into the ordinance. It's just that I don't know the verbiage. I don't know how to write an ordinance.
Right.
I know
No,
Sandy
that'd be something
has
that
written
probably an attorney
ordinances.
would have to get involved in.
I'm sorry?
That's probably what, if y'all had a attorney for the PARDS or something like that, he would. I don't know what y'all's rules are. I mean, Sandy, how'd y'all handle this in the past?
We would help y'all and make that a part of your section in our code of ordinances to have enforcement. How strict you want it. Do they go to jail? Do they get $500 fee?
Right. I don't know if you got a copy of it, but we were asking to be able, if necessary, to be able to ask someone to leave. And if
we kind of did this in Carter Plantation as well. Did the same thing. They worked with the sheriff's office on enforcement in there to give them legs to be able to write tickets and DWIs and all that.
All right.
So if I don't know if this was the correct body to come to before, but I felt like since it was an ordinance that we were looking for, it's an ordinance committee, and so if Sandy can do that, and then I know you check with legal to be sure when you do something like that. I don't know if that's the process that you want to use or.
So I think I can interject here. So for example, I'm an avid park patron. At South Park, you cannot have crawfish bowls. That's a park rule. It's not a state park rule. So they are trying to be able to enforce their rules, and LPSO, Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, cannot enforce that because it's not an ordinance.
Right.
So I do want to tell you, it does have to go to legal. I did speak with Mr. John Wascom. He spoke with the councilman that represents District 3, and they are writing an ordinance. So it's got to go through a council person or legal, because it's got to go through the legal process of being checked and vetted. And so just know that. Does that clarify the park? Did I represent that accurately?
That's the kind of thing that we we need to be able to enforce those kinds of requirements. So I guess to answer your question, it probably isn't all, state law or anything like that.
Right. And that's what I was trying to determine because
I guess I couldn't.
I didn't know what your
answered
rules
that incorrectly.
were.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would be things like that.
Okay.
That, just for the quality of the park.
Well, it sounds like Mr. Wascom and
do you think that you could get them a copy of the park rules that go above state law so they know?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and this document says that they would be, because we have things we have them posted, but then also on our website, we have our rules and regulations on our website. So that, and I, as long as, and I don't know if they've already talked to Sandy or whatever about that, but we look forward, and I didn't know if it needed to come to ordinance, to get the help we needed. But we had been talking with the other councilmen, all three councilmen in that district, in that park.
It looks like we're on the way to getting you your help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I do think it's much needed. Thank you.
Any councilman comments?
Well, I'm good with that. We just got to help them out.
Mr. Goff, did you have an item on the agenda that you wanted to speak about? Discussion of waivers, subdivision previously approved to subdivide in a named subdivision.
What we have for my nap? Ricky Goff, 32774 Kirbywood Drive. I apologize for my tardiness. We had a previous meeting. I'm sure you passed that information on. And I also want to apologize for the last council meeting, our last ordinance meeting. No excuse. I just didn't make it in time, so I apologize. So if anybody has any questions with this ordinance, I think some of y'all did. I'm okay with putting it on the next ordinance committee meeting if that's what y'all wish to do, and then we can send it on to the council after those adjustments. Either way y'all want to do it.
I did do the research on it that I told you I would do. I spoke to the planning department and had some older subdivisions pulled, and so the year that you have is 1990. I would personally be more comfortable with 1975. That seemed to be, I could move to 1980, but that's when things started to change. So the old subdivisions of land versus subdivisions like Plantation Estates, Shadow Springs, and whatnot.
So when you say moving it back, because anything from 75 forward, for example, that's a named subdivision would have to still have a waiver. So I want to make sure that what you're asking there. So in all, I'm just a little bit confused on why we would go all the way back to 75.
You would need a waiver for anything after 1975. Oh. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so you want to go further back than where I was at?
Yes.
Okay.
I did do research there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, you good with that?
Whatever y'all wish. I definitely feel, like you said, that there is a lot of older homes that fell in that same category, et cetera. And yeah, I'm perfectly fine with the 75.
Okay.
Or 80 or whatever you want to go.
You want 75 or 80?
80.
80,
yeah.
Okay.
80 sounds better. 80.
Well, it was right at that mark, so I'm comfortable with that, and I left a little bit of flex room there. So,
okay.
So amend it to the part in blue, 12551, amend to, do I need to read the whole thing?
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'm going to make that change. I'm going to come back if it's okay with the board. I'm also reach out to the Planning Commission as well on a couple of other things from a concept of density aspect. You know, when we say 2 acres, can we put some wording in there? Because that did come up.
Okay.
And so if we can put some wording in there to also take in this density capacity of it, might help us as well. Instead of just saying 2 acres flat, we might be able to say if the density meets this standard.
Can you tell me the 2 acre thing again? What is the two? It's so 1975 and back. And then what is the 2 acres? What is it?
We agreed to go to 1980, and the 2 acres is if it's anything below 2 acres, they have to have the waiver by this council. If the lot size is anything over 2 acres and it falls in that time frame, then the Planning Commission has the right to go ahead and give them their permit to, and go through the process to subdivide if that's what they wish.
Okay. I don't have, that's it.
Yeah. It was pretty straightforward, but because I missed last meeting and I was late for this one, I'd rather just take that information, make that adjustment. I'll send it back out to you as a council member, put it on the agenda, and hopefully it'll just be a simple approval and move forward. And it ain't like it's a time-sensitive thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize again.
All right, with no other business, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
All right, motion by Mr. Shavers, seconded by Ms. Sanderford. We adjourn.
Yay.
You didn't say it real loud. You said I said.